I would like to take a few moments of your time and welcome you in. My name is Mr. Brodie Lee, and I am the exalted one of the Dark Order. And we, as a whole, understand that during these trying, unprecedented, anxious times, how you feel. I once was lost. I once was downtrodden. And I once was beaten down. But now, I stand before you as the exalted one. So I want you to now stand next to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you. It's an honor.
It's Mr. Brodie.
Yes, sir, exalted one.
It's Mr.
Welcome to Talk AEW, the AEW podcast from Goombastomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. I'm your host, Ian Goodwillie. We're here, as always, with freelance writer Mariko McDonald.
Hello.
And the editor-in-chief of Goombastomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, Ricky D.
Hello, Ian. Hello, Mariko. Hello, AEW Universe. And hello, 2021.
2021, the year that has a very low bar to get over to be better than the one before it. We're going to talk today about a couple of things. We're going to close out the show talking about our predictions for 2021, but given that we're an AEW-focused podcast, we got to start with the biggest story in AEW in, definitely the last week, and that is the loss of Brodie Lee. Some people knew him better as Luke Harper from WWE, and there's those lucky few out there that got to know him as Jon Huber, the man behind the names. AEW had an incredible celebration of Brodie's life this week on AEW Dynamite, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's hard to find any fault with it whatsoever.
Can I go on a rant for about 2 minutes?
Absolutely.
I think that was the best episode of Dynamite so far, and not just because it was a tribute show. The entire package was phenomenal. It was emotional. It was an action-packed spectacle. I did not know if I should cheer or cry, but I cried and I cheered. The production values were through the roof. Like a few weeks ago, we did a podcast talking about what we would do to better the programming, Dynamite and Dark. Little simple choices they made, like using the color purple and the hue and the transitions and using the Dark Order symbol in between matches and the actual booking, the matches themselves. Each and every single match was incredible. The opening with the 10 bell to the very closing video package in which Tony Khan actually purchased the rights to the song by Tom Waits. I mean, this was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Every single wrestler in the world right now watching that episode of Dynamite must have been thinking that this is probably, most likely, for sure, the greatest wrestling company you can work at, because look at how they treat their employees. The fact that Brodie Lee Jr. was put in the spotlight. I mean, I'm going to rave about this episode for the next 45 minutes, guys, but I'm going to take a pause because I know you have a lot to say, and I need to hear what you guys have to say because I've been waiting, like a week now to talk about this.
Yeah, this was like, I'm not the only person to say it, but this was the benchmark by which you do a tribute show. This is how you remember someone. This is how you show your love as a family, as a company, as a community. And it was so smart, too, the way that they booked all of these fantastic, just fun matches. One thing I want to add, and this was a very personal kind of thing, but a lot of the matches reminded me of was my sports background. I figure skated when I was a teen. I was never very good, but it was my sport. You know, we watched all of the Worlds and the Canadians and the Olympics, and that was the sport that I followed. And in the world of figure skating, which similarly in a way to wrestling is like this sport and an art, like you have to be expressive, you have to act, but you're also doing these incredible physical feats. And I think for me, like, just because those are maybe my two reference points, like I've always seen a similarity, a strange one, between the two sports. And in competitions, especially at the higher levels, at the end of the competition, they would have something called usually like a parade of champions. And all of the skaters who won medals or placed during that competition would get to go out, and they usually do like the number that they won with. But then they also get to do a couple of freestyle numbers. So these are back when you weren't allowed to use music with lyrics. You could use music with lyrics for this. And you could do any moves you wanted, any illegal moves, backflips, face breakers, all that stuff that's too dangerous to do in a competition. You could go out and you could do it. And it was just about having fun, showing your personality, and connecting with the crowd on a different level. And that's, to me, what all of these matches felt like. They weren't necessarily in line with any specific storyline, but it was all about giving, especially the Dark Order members, really wonderful moments to shine and express themselves and show their personalities. And what I think is so extra smart about booking it this way, like, yes, it's fun for the fans and fun for the people wrestling, but also they knew they were going to have tons of people who aren't regular AEW watchers tuning in for this. Because maybe they'd grown up, just for the sake of it being Jon Huber, and then having this fantastic showcase of all of these different styles of wrestling at, just having so much fun and putting so much heart into it. Like, I think they made a whole bunch of extra wrestling fans with this show.
I definitely agree with everything you're both saying. I think it was an amazing show. Two of the guys, oddly enough, I thought took it up like 12 notches. Number one, I haven't seen that much energy out of Colt Cabana in months. Like,
yeah.
he went to work and he showed that he still has it. That's the Colt Cabana we should be seeing every time he's in the ring. That's just who he is. Well, he should be crying every week, but I want to see his. That's the wrestler that's the Colt Cabana I know. I don't know where he's been the last couple months, but I'm happy to see him back again. And freaking Stu Grayson, I mean, he is always impressive, but he took it up 14 notches. And I'd also just like to say, Lance Archer looked pretty good with the Dark Order. I don't know if they've got any thoughts about that. He
Lance
looked really
Archer
good.
was the biggest revelation for me because he was pulling out all these moves. He was on the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
He was Vader slamming people. Like, it was nuts.
He should be. That's why we keep saying it. He should be a bigger star for AEW than he is right now, and I'm hoping that they caught that.
Like, I think he was just doing Luke Harper. Like, he had the outfit on, and he was doing all these moves that aren't part of his moveset. It was great.
Yeah, from my understanding, a lot of people said he was doing the quote-unquote Undertaker move, but no, Jon Huber, back when he was wrestling, I think before the Indies, I was told that he used to do the top rope move.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what that was.
Sorry, you mentioned Colt Cabana, and that opening match really hammered in the fact that this is a community. They are a family. Like, every time you listen to AEW Unrestricted, they always say, we are a family. It's different here. It's different than the rest of the indies and the rest of the wrestling promotions around the world, be it New Japan or WWE. There's a different vibe. And I really saw the community more so than ever before, not just within the actual organization, but within the fan base. Like, the opening with the 10 bells, like, you noticed there was a few wrestlers crying, like specifically Miro, for example, but we didn't get enough of a glimpse of them because the camera just kept cutting from one wrestler to the next wrestler. But during the match, like, Colt Cabana was in the spotlight for, 10 minutes at least, and he had tears in his eyes, but yet he had a smile on his face, along with the rest of the wrestlers. They all put on a phenomenal match, and you can see the passion. Like, they clearly love working for AEW.
I think you're obviously correct about that. I think the only thing that bothered me, and it was a comment that Tony Schiavone made on commentary when he said this is the only place something like this would happen, and something to that effect. And I was immediately like, well, that's just not correct. 15 years ago, WWE did basically the exact same show for Eddie Guerrero. Mm-hmm. Like, they shut down storylines for the night. They had endless testimonials to him, people, Triple H crying backstage. They had a 10-bell salute. They had just had fun matches all night in honor of him. Chavo was doing this ridiculous gimmick at the time where he was pretending to be like, I don't know, a member
Mr.
of the
White?
Mean Street. Yeah, whatever that was, and he dropped that gimmick that night. I don't think he brought it back after he stuck with Chavo. Like, I mean, it's you know, they did a great job, but it's not like other wrestling promotions don't do stuff like this too. So I mean, I don't deny it was a great episode. It was an amazing episode of Dynamite, but categorizing it as this unique thing that's never happened before is wildly incorrect also. Like, it's...
I agree, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about WWE, but I will say one thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that they didn't do much on Raw, because I think Dynamite needed to do their thing first. Like, if WWE does something next week, that would be great. But I don't think they should have done something ahead of Dynamite. And so a lot of people were upset that they didn't do much, but I think that's the right move. I do think they can and should do something, but not before AEW did their show.
They released a really great tribute video to him that you can watch on YouTube. It's got guys like Xavier in it, people who are pretty close to him backstage talking about him. Adam Pearce is in it because he knew Jon for forever from the indies when he was still wrestling all the way through. Like, it's a great video. If you get a chance, go watch it.
Because I kind of feel like they would have stole the thunder from AEW, and like, I mean, that was a lot of work to have to rewrite the show on Monday night and then call in all of your wrestlers, the whole entire roster, you know, film the entire program. I'm not entirely sure if it was filmed live or they said we were live, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are live. Like, I don't know. But regardless, they had like 2 days to redo the entire episode. And they have to answer to their sponsors and investors because they had a huge booking, like a huge entire show, like part 1 of the 2-part New Year's Bash. And they had to completely derail all of their plans and delay that episode, which might not sound like a big deal for wrestling fans, but it is a huge deal for people that don't care. The people only care about money, the producers, the TV producers, the advertisers, and so on and so forth. So kudos to Tony Khan.
Oh yeah, the episode of Dark that would have been filmed on Wednesday after Dynamite or whenever they filmed it. There was still Excalibur and Taz like when they put it out on Tuesday night on YouTube. It was still Excalibur and Taz hyping the first night of New Year's Bash or whatever it's called, because all of that was filmed. They put like a quick like title card tribute to Brodie off the top of it, but after that it was just the show that they already recorded, and they had all the promo stuff for what matches were supposed to be on Wednesday this week and will be on Wednesday next week. So you're absolutely 100% correct. It was a huge change in direction for them. Like, AEW is a sizable operation, and to shift gears that quickly and
during the holidays.
Oh, during the holidays, absolutely. Like, the whole thing you cannot underestimate how much work they put in. And you're absolutely right. WWE did the right thing by stepping back and letting AEW said they were going to do this. WWE stepped back and let them do their thing. And the thing, like, as you mentioned, there were the people online who were hacking WWE for not doing more. If they had done something on Monday, then the same people would have been hacking them for doing something on Monday.
Yep, I agree.
And kind of buff. Like, WWE, with those people that were mad at them for it, were damned if they did, damned if they didn't. Like, I think they did what they should. And there were so many fun little moments where, like, Xavier on Monday night used Brodie's clothesline to finish a guy. Last night on SmackDown, Big E was giving an interview backstage, and in his interview, he was wearing his Brodie armband, and he mentioned, like, he didn't mention Brodie Lee by name, but he snuck in references to Rochester, where Brodie was from, mentioned his kids' names, and then mentioned something about the Maple Leafs, which was Brodie's favorite hockey team. And there's all these wrestlers.
Which, by the way, makes no sense. That makes no sense. Who the hell likes the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I don't know.
And he's not even Canadian. Like, he's not even from Toronto.
I mean, we live in Canada, and I don't know anyone that likes the Maple Leafs.
It's my favorite, completely off topic. My favorite memory of the Maple Leafs of all time was a few years ago. It was opening day, like, it was their first game of the season, and there was a guy. It was on TV. I was watching the game, and there was a guy standing up front, full, like, he had the colors on. He was wearing his jersey. His face was painted, and he was holding up a sign that said "Maybe next year." And I'm like, that is a true Toronto Maple Leafs fan, because he diehard loves his team, but he knows this isn't going anywhere.
Anyhow, Mariko, you know what I found out yesterday? I was listening to Talk is Jericho. He just put out a podcast yesterday, so everyone go listen to it. It's a tribute show to Jon Huber. Stu Grayson and Evil Uno were on the show, and I could not help but not notice that they have a Montreal, Quebec accent. They are from Montreal. They wrestled in LaSalle, where I live. I did not know that.
I saw Uno at Battle War like a year and a half ago.
I didn't know that those guys were part of that crew. Like,
he was wrestling at Foofs.
I mean, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and all them. Yeah, I knew.
What is it? Gambit? No.
No. Who's from Gatineau? One of them's from Gatineau. One of them's.
Uno's from Gatineau because my husband and I looked this up because they used to wrestle as the Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, they're from the Montreal area, and every time Uno comes on screen, or like especially like the show this week where he really got to show off a lot, we're like, Nicolas Dasco, where did you think you'd be doing this in Gatineau? Oh, Nicolas from Gatineau, look at you go.
because Ian, I live in LaSalle, and like right down the street in Lachine, they have a venue where they wrestle. So all the guys that made it big, like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, all those dudes. Sorry?
Is that where IWS is?
Well, IWS used to be in LaSalle. It used to be in LaSalle, but there's IWS, which is also Montreal North now, and there's a venue in Lachine, like, I swear to God, like 5 minutes from where I live.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyhow.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I've only been to the shows at Foofs, but that's Battle War.
Yeah, and they also do some shows at oh my God, what's the other punk rock bar? Crowbar, I think. Or is it Cafe Campus? Anyhow, totally derailed the entire show here, but I was just really happy that they represent Quebec. So,
yeah,
more Canadians.
Yeah, Uno's a big gamer and a streamer too. I think, honestly, I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but predictions for 2021, I see big things for Uno and Grayson. I just have such a soft spot for those guys. Finally really getting to be able to show what they're really capable of. I'm just so excited for them.
So I published a list of the 20 best AEW matches of 2020, 15 of which were from Dynamite. My favorite match of the episode, which made the list, was the Inner Circle MJF, Santana, and Ortiz versus Hangman Page, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. Not just because it was hilarious, like starting the match by throwing paper. Probably my favorite skit from Being the Elite, the YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, go look at some of the archives.
Or even last week's episode, which was just a Jon Huber, which included all of the references that you need to know.
The thing about this match, which blew me away, and I thought it was brilliant, was the fact that MJF, of course, decided to stay in character, which might make him seem like a complete douchebag, except he did it because it was purposely done so he could put Brodie Lee Jr. over, give him the highlight. I mean, that kid had the highlight of the night. Like, he was like the star of the night when he hit MJF over the head with a kendo stick and knocked him out. I mean, like, what the hell? Like, that's amazing. Like, for anyone who's mad at MJF, like, hello, the guy sacrificed his reputation. I mean, to some extent, like, going out there and being the douchebag just so this kid can have his moment. That's amazing.
Yeah, we were kind of taking bets before the show of who was going to bump for the kid. Because, I mean, he was being featured so prominently. We're like, okay, he's going to get his own little spot to shine. It was like, okay, who's going to do the job for him? And cheers to MJF. I mean, he has such a reputation for his treatment of children IRL. So this was great. It was really wonderful moment.
Well, it was also just a really great match, period. I mean, oh
my goodness, his shorts.
Oh yeah, no, everything
the bandana,
was fantastic.
The Puerto Rican shorts. It was too much.
That was a completely unexpected touch. That whole thing with him leaning into the whole proud and powerful thing with Santana and Ortiz, like this weird buddy thing they're trying to develop with them. I kind of dig that. Like it was kind of funny when Jericho was doing it a bit in the early days, like of Inner Circle. Seeing MJF do it is goddamn absurd, and it's hilarious, and I love everything about it.
He really understands the anachronism that he's working with, and he just does it off so brilliantly.
Oh, he does. And then, like, the smile on Brodie Jr.'s face, on -1's face, after he smoked him in the head, it just... Did you guys see the video, the backstage video of him, of Brodie Jr. whooping on the Dark Order with the kendo stick?
No.
It's freaking amazing. And it's just him in their dressing room, and Brodie Lee Jr.'s got his mask on. He has his -1 mask on. Still got the dress pants on. He's got the dress shirt, but the dress shirt is wide open. And he's just beating the crap out of all the members of the Dark Order as if he was Brodie. They're just screaming.
This was the best match of the night. That's why I made my list, and it's not just because of the booking. Like, every single wrestler in this match had at least 3 highlights. It's not just Brodie Lee Jr., but it's how it ended by having Eric Redbeard run out and make his cameo, and then have the Inner Circle pretty much like all present. Well, I mean, Chris Jericho was on commentary, so he was there.
Yeah, actually, my favorite part of all that was Excalibur trying to correct Jericho on Eric Redbeard's name, and Jericho just not caring at all.
I don't think WWE is going to give them any hassle.
No. This is their one pass night, but I just thought it was funny, just like the tension in Excalibur's voice as he's like, Redbeard. Were
you talking about Redbeard coming out during the? You're talking about him coming out during the John Silver match, right?
Well, him coming out during the match, and then of course he came out afterwards with the sign, which was incredible.
Yeah. That was a heartbreaking moment right there. That actually, the thing that less than the Redbeard name, like the name thing, I was surprised by the numbers of photos of WWE stars in that tribute video at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought that was really sweet that
it was nice.
There weren't any issues with that.
But didn't we talk about this a while back where it was like, who cares? It's like the whole thing with Xbox allowing crossplay with Nintendo, but PlayStation doesn't want to do. Like, dude, like PlayStation, we know Xbox and Nintendo exists. Like I don't understand the mentality behind some of these companies. Yeah. Like, it's not like we're not going to know that the competition exists because you decide to ignore them. Like, who cares? Like, especially in a moment like this. Like, it's not going to take away viewers. If anything, you might gain viewers.
I'm always surprised when I see stuff like that because it so rarely happens, and it should happen more. Like,
it would be like if we were too afraid to mention an AEW podcast or wrestling website.
Oh, you can't talk about Talk is Jericho because,
Oh, yeah, exactly. Or I can't talk about AEW Unrestricted because, people might not listen to us. Like, you know what? If people don't want to listen to us, they don't want to listen to us no matter what. Like, it has something to do with them not knowing about these other podcasts.
I don't think that's a problem, though, because there aren't any other wrestling podcasts. I'm pretty sure we're the first one, right? Like, there's like 0 out there, right? Like, it's not.
But am I wrong to say that is equivalent to this whole? It's the same thing, no? Like if you're on commentary and you're Tony Schiavone, like that is equivalent to me telling Ian, no, you can't mention Talk is Jericho. Like, that's stupid.
It's the same way that whenever the Hughes brothers TNT are wrestling on Dark, and you have to listen to them talk about them being second generation wrestlers while Taz does verbal gymnastics to not mention Devon Dudley.
Like I understand that there's copyright laws, but I mean, like, okay, for example, I don't know if you know this, but Jon Huber actually copyrighted the name Brodie Lee right before he passed away.
Yeah, he got that weeks, I think.
We could still say Brodie Lee on the show, right? Like,
absolutely, yes.
I think the only time it becomes problematic if it ties into your actual brand or marketing. But if you mention Brodie Lee, like, I mean, if I say happy birthday, like, that is trademarked. Like, that's why you can't actually sing the song without paying rights, like in a movie, for example, which is weird, but it is what it is.
Well, I think the difference is the second it becomes something that starts making money. There was it's
about commercial, right?
You go to a comic book convention, and it's just you've got Artist Alley, which is just endless artists creating images of copyrighted images. They're using characters like Ghost Rider or Superman or Xena. All of that's illegal. Every last scrap of it. You're not allowed to do any of that. But all the companies turn a blind eye to it because it doesn't hurt their bottom lines. But there was a gentleman a few years ago who then took all of his stuff, like all these like some of them were commissioned, some of them were just pieces for prints that he'd done. People really liked them, so he put them in a book. And the second he put them in a book, he got a cease and desist from Marvel because he was now trading on their territory. He was now selling a book with the images of their characters in them. That that's 100% against the law. Like
what's weird though is Nintendo will take down any videos even if you're not monetizing the videos. Like you just have like footage of whatever Nintendo game, and or it's a fan made video game of, I don't know, Earthbound, like the sequel. They will take it down. It's very strange. I'm not sure why.
Well,
yeah, Nintendo's really, really strict and weird about that stuff, and it really doesn't make very much sense. Well,
I think that's the thing that comic book companies realized a while ago, is that shutting down the fan community. Like, I mean, there are people selling $20 prints, whatever. And look at the fan engagement that's happening because of it in your brand. It just gets people to buy more of your product in the long run.
So, Anna Jay.
Oh,
so good.
I think that was like her best performance ever. I love her and Tay Conti together. I really want them to do like the whole women's tag team thing, just so we can see more of them together, because they really have great chemistry, and I just love watching both of them work.
Great chemistry. I also think it was a really good match.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It could be one of the best women's matches. My husband was like, "This is my favorite women's match I've seen yet," and actually, he was calling it it was his match of the night.
Every single match, they had a callback, at least one, if not 10 callbacks to Brodie Lee. You know, maybe they did one of his moves, or they looked up to the sky, or pointed to the sky, or whatever. Right? In this case, Britt Baker did the whole pun with Big Rig.
Yeah, a lot of the outstretched arms, like the mustachy thing.
Anna Jay and Tay Conti, they were tag teamed in the tournament, correct?
Yeah, that's how they met and became friends.
Okay, so that makes sense. But so anyhow, you know, you talk about how, or people have been talking about how Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, makes everyone around him better. And at the start of 2019, I was not a fan of the Dark Order. I mean, we talked about this last week, Ian and I, when we were trying to decide who the best faction was, and I put Dark Order as a special mention. I wanted to choose Dark Order, ended up going with Inner Circle. Ian, you chose Dark Order, but I did say there was a vast improvement. Not just Stu Grayson, not just like John Silver, like everyone involved. Like, it has to be Brodie Lee. But Anna Jay's a perfect example. She was good when she came in, but she was also kind of like new, a rookie. Nobody knew much about her. She didn't get much time to shine.
She'd only been wrestling for like a year.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep. No, she's super fresh. But
my God, as soon as they put her in the Beat Elite YouTube whatever channel, whatever you call it, that's when she started to shine. And now she's like probably my second favorite, maybe third in the women's roster. Like, I still like Big Swole and Britt Baker, but man, she's awesome.
Yeah, if you watch her unrestricted interviews, she's fantastic. She grew up wanting to be a wrestler, and like, she grew up with brothers. None of her brothers are wrestlers, but she's the one who wanted to be a wrestler, and she loves the drama, the storytelling aspect of it. And she's so keen to learn. Like, she's such a quick study. Like we said, like, she'd only been wrestling a year, and here she is looking like a wily veteran, selling these emotional matches. She really impresses me, and I think she's really going to go far, because you can tell she really loves what she does and just really wants to be the best at it that she can be.
It's the athleticism, and there's also the performance, which, you know, they do act like it is acting, right? And acting is an art form, wrestling is an art form, performing is an art form, and she's just good at all of it.
Yeah, well, she has a dance background, so that's a lot of, the athleticism, but also that ability to connect with an audience, and all those things. I think she's just going to go really far.
This was the match that kind of, it was amazing how many people came out of their shells that night, and she really, if you weren't a fan of Anna Jay, or Tay Conti for that matter, before that match, you better be now. Like, if you're not a fan of either of those two women, after watching that match, you weren't paying attention. Yeah. Like, it's just, they were so good in that match, and as Britt, and I don't want to downplay Britt Baker and Penelope Ford. They're obviously extremely talented. They were great in the match as well. But I mean, Anna Jay doesn't get a lot of chances to shine in the ring,
No.
It's as we talked before, it's a time issue. They do have a fairly sizable roster.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't get a lot of one-on-one or tag team matches, and so for her to get a big spot like that on Dynamite, and then fully deliver as someone who's really only been in the business, as you said, for like a year, maybe a bit more than a year. I don't even to shine on that level, to show how good she is. That was a big deal. That's how you honor somebody like Brodie Lee. You come out, you have those matches just all night, these big matches where everybody brings their A game and everything looks great, and everything just clicks. And that's how you honor somebody who loved wrestling like Jon Huber.
Yeah.
So I know Team Taz, they lost a match. They were clearly the heels, but man, I love Team Taz, and watching them in the ring, especially with Hook outside.
Oh yeah, Hook finally got a move in.
I was like, damn, like this is my team. This is like I think I said that this was going to be like the best faction of 2021. I'm so stoked. It was a great match. Maybe not the best match of the night, but still a great match. And I just cannot wait. I see big things for Ricky Starks, Brian Cage.
Oh God, yes.
Hobbs, and even Hook. But yeah, actually, I think Hook had a move on Dark, actually, so it's a second move.
I'll say that one thing that I think Team Taz needs right now, they need a female member. And they need somebody.
Yeah, it's getting a little dude bro-y.
It is.
There.
I would honestly, if I was them, I would seriously consider Layla Hirsch.
Ooh, good choice.
Because she could just,
she could suplex Taz out of the building.
Oh, she could. And that's the thing. Like, if they go down there and get in a fight with the Nightmare family, she could just beat the crap out of Lee Johnson and be done with it. Like, it's just, she could just pick up one of the guns. Like, I don't care which gun she picks up. They're basically the same. Pick up one gun and hit another gun with that gun. Like, that's literally, she's outstanding. She needs to be, I think, for her to be part of a faction, I think would elevate her incredibly at this point. She needs that kind of exposure. Man, she would just fit in. She'd just hit the ground running with Team Taz in 2021, and that would take them to another level. That was always the thing in NXT that bugged me about, I love Undisputed Era, but what bugged me was they kept talking about how they had all the gold. I'm like, yeah, you don't have the women's championship. And the last time I checked, that was a belt too. Like, why they needed a female member? Then they could have literally said we had all the gold at that one point. And I think they feel like some of the factions are overlooking that. Like, that's why Anna Jay is so great, because the Dark Order has a complete faction. They can go after any title they want. Mm-hmm. And at some point, they could have every title, literally every title, except maybe the FTW, because nobody's challenging for that. But they can have every title in AEW. But I think they need to get that in with more of these factions, and I think that could be a big one for them. Like, plus I just love Layla Hirsch. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, they really need to not sleep on her and get her nailed down, because she's too good, and there's too much hype around her right now. Like, if they don't do something soon,
she's gonna suplex a Volkswagen on somebody, man.
Oh my god,
she could suplex Lance Archer across the ring. She's amazing.
She could.
Yeah,
I agree. I think she actually could.
Speaking of titles, the show ended with the beautiful tribute. So Tony walks into the ring with Amanda, Jon Huber's wife, the sons, Brodie Lee Jr.'s there. I love how they place his boots in the middle of the ring with the spotlight shining on it, and his, what is it, is a handkerchief? But then he brings the title, right? So I'm assuming it's the same title that Darby Allin has been walking around with for like 8 weeks. So they retired not the championship like itself, but that actual belt. So they're going to be making a new belt, right?
Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So that's an amazing tribute. I mean, can you imagine they just made the belt. Like, it took them forever to make the belt. Remember when the belt got introduced? It was like during
that's right. It wasn't even finished. They finally finished the belt, and now they're retiring it.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Like, I know Tony Khan's a billionaire, but still.
Well, it's just a really nice thing to do.
I mean, even Sammy Guevara was able to buy a bootleg belt, so they don't have to be expensive.
It was a nice touch. It was a great way to end the show. But I think the one thing I want to mention about the show that I don't think people have talked about enough, and it's Alan Angel spending that entire show with Brodie Lee Jr. at
Yeah.
ringside. He rode shotgun with him for the entire show. He stood there supporting him and encouraging them and by his side, helping him all night. I mean, you got to give the man credit for being that. Like that was just beautiful. Like him sticking by that kid's side for the entire program, no matter what.
Yeah.
That was amazing to watch.
10 as well at the end. You could
Yes.
see that he was also kind of watching out for them. He came out with Amanda and everybody, and you really get the impression that that whole faction was really very close with Brodie and his family. You know, being such a family man, I'm sure they were around all the time, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with why Brodie Lee Jr. is such a fan of 10. Is just he got to know him so well.
Yep. Well, the WWE guys that have, well, a ton of them have commented on it, obviously, but they talked about that too when Brodie was with that company, that his family was always around there too. Like they got to, like everyone's talked about what a huge family man he was, but I mean, wrestling was part of his family too. In that WWE tribute video, there's a great photo of Woods talked about how, I think it might have been on Twitter, I can't remember, I think it was on Twitter, Woods was talking about how, like, Huber was the guy who would go exploring when they got to a new city, and Woods would go exploring. Huber was always ready to go with them. There's a great photo of them riding go-karts together, and Huber's got a Mario hat on, like Mario's hat from the game on. So they're like doing a whole like Mario Kart thing, and there's so many photos that I've seen of him in the past week that I'm just like, God damn, what an interesting dude.
What I really loved too about this episode was Chris Jericho. Him on commentary, because he added a touch of humor but yet paid respect to the family and Jon Huber and the fans, and also his testimonial, his video package.
Great testimonial.
Because the thing about Chris Jericho is you can tell he really, really, truly cares about this dude and respects Jon Huber, but he still had to have a video package in which he told really fun stories, which would bring a smile to like the face of any fans or even his family. And I was also listening to Talk Jericho, the podcast, yesterday, and he was talking about how Jon Huber, like, you know, they would always party on the fourth floor. Apparently that's where you hang out and like party with AEW staff. And he would just never party because he's like a family man. He would go and read a book or spend time with his children. And I'm not the type of person that usually gets emotional when a celebrity dies because I personally do not know the person. It has happened a few times with David Bowie, Prince, and maybe like Eddie Guerrero, but it happened this week with Jon Huber. And especially during the episode of Dynamite, like I can't lie, I had tears in my eyes. Like I've never met this man, but you know, I've watched him in WWE, I've watched him in AEW. I loved his whole storyline with the Wyatt family versus the Shield. I remember his match with Dolph Ziggler was fantastic. Him coming to AEW, I mean, I put one, if not two, of his matches on my list of the best matches of the year. This guy had a bright future ahead of him in AEW. It's just so sad that he's no longer with the company because, I mean, for weeks now, we've been saying that this guy should be the main event. Like, this guy should have a championship title. I mean, he did for, like, not very long. It's really sad. It's just, like, you could tell he's a great person because everyone seems to have good things to say about him. It's not just like a little circle or clique or bubble. It's not just AEW fans. It's not just people who worked with him. It seems to be everybody.
Yeah, he just seems like a wonderful human. And yeah, like you said, I don't always get affected. You know, I'm not often affected by celebrity deaths, but there were a couple things. I mean, one, it was so sudden, like it was and it wasn't. But as far as the public's concerned, you know, we didn't know what was going on. And so it was very, very sudden for all of us. And as well, he's so young. He's my age. Like, people my age don't just die, you know? And for it to be such a, you know, by all accounts, wonderful human to start with, who had just started to really, you know, tap into his true potential and really get the recognition that he deserved. I think that's a lot of what just makes it all so much more tragic and affected so many people.
Yeah, because it happened to me earlier in the year because I'm a huge Lakers fan, a huge basketball fan, and Kobe died, Kobe Bryant. But I kind of felt the same way here too. I think what made me sad about it, because, you know, apart from him dying, for me personally, because I never met the guy, is because I do kind of feel like it is a community. And I feel like I started the podcast because I wanted to meet AEW wrestling fans. I want to talk to, in this case, you guys about wrestling. And I'm hoping that in the new year, well, in this year, sorry, I'm hoping moving forward we can actually maybe bring on some guests and, reach out to fans of AEW. And I kind of felt like the whole community was mourning. And so that's why I think it really hit me hard. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyhow.
It does. And I think that's a great place to end off talking about this. There's so much to say about him, but I think there's what else do you say about a man like Brodie Lee and his contributions? But I think that's a good spot to sort of say, you know what? Thank you, Brodie, for all the great wrestling that he gave us to watch over the years. When we come back from the break, we'll be talking about our predictions for 2021. Don't go away.
I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Brodie Lee, and I am the Exalted One.
Well, my time went so quickly, I went lickety-splickly out to my old 55. As I pulled away slowly, feeling so holy, God knows I was feeling alive.
Welcome back to Talk AEW, the AEW podcast from GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. We're back, of course, with Mariko McDonald and Ricky D, and we are talking about our predictions for 2021. They don't have to be rational. They don't even have to make sense, but they need to be interesting. Who wants to go first?
I will do the honors.
Oh, here we go. Mariko,
Yes.
what you got?
All right. I'm going to go with some of the obvious ones. So obviously at some point we're going to get Hangman beating Kenny in a 12-star match for the belt. I'm hoping he does it with Dark Order support, because I think that would be really fun and turn all of the Dark Order babyface. I think the time is right. And with Kenny being such an obnoxious douchebag, I think that could be a lot of fun, because you need a babyface to defeat the arrogant heel. Obviously, we're probably also finally going to get a Britt Baker title run. I don't know if she'll actually secure it, but I think she should. I think this is the year to do it. I would, like I keep harping on, like to see an expansion of the women's division and get some tag belts in there. I think that would be really fun. Again, time being an issue. I want to see, like I said, Dark Order getting pushed in general. I want to see Uno and Grayson back seriously in the belt contention. But more than that, I want to see Santana and Ortiz win the tag belts, because I think they deserve it. I think they are so talented. And
So wait, do you think they are going to win, or are you saying you hope, or you're predicting for Santana and Ortiz?
this is more like my wish list for
Okay.
2021.
Okay.
I don't know if any of this is likely to happen.
Right.
But we've been sleeping on them. They've been injured. Santana's had family issues. Like, I think the stars are lining up for them to get some real action outside of the faction, because I feel like, especially some of the factions, you get kind of tied into the faction and whatever beefs are happening with the faction, and you stop going after your own stuff. And I want to see more, especially like the tag teams who are in factions and stuff, doing more, getting more legit title chances. And I mean, with Best Friends being out for a while now, maybe slot them into the stupid feud with Miro that nobody cares about. I don't know. Just get them on TV more.
I'm not sure how much insight the commentators like Tony Schiavone and JR have with the future of upcoming feuds and wrestling matches and storylines, but I kind of feel like sometimes we do get a bit of foreshadowing with the commentary with the commentary track. Mm-hmm. And in the last episode of Dynamite, I think it was JR said that he thinks that they are going to be a title contender in 2021. And I kind of feel like my first prediction is Santana and Ortiz are going to win the tag team championships. I think they are going to be the tag team of 2021.
Now's the time to do it.
Well, especially with MJF pushing them.
Yeah, that's true. Like, maybe they could be their own faction. there's so much they can do, and we've been faffing around on them for too long. Like, push them to the frickin' moon.
That's my first prediction. I'll hold off the rest of my predictions.
Well, I want to see the Jewishy wrestlers come back. That would be fun. Pac. Somebody put a belt on Pac. Let's put a belt on Pac. I don't know which one or how, but
FTW.
Yes.
I'm actually quite serious about that. I think it'd be hilarious if he won the FTW
in a
championship.
match. Just give me that match. I don't even care who wins. Give me Pac versus Brian Cage.
Oh, just let them loose on each other. You would have the match.
Yes, I want it.
I think we all want it now. Good God.
Oh, and Wardlow. Push Wardlow to the frickin' moon.
Oh my God. Put the belt on him.
He's amazing. Wardlow's amazing. There's too much talent in this locker room. But do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that the Inner Circle will become baby faces and they will have a feud with Team Taz?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, the Team Taz is busy with Nightmare Family or whatever the F they're doing. I want Dark Order to get pushed more. I think they're in a better place to be baby faces. Honestly, yes. I feel like Inner Circle, I think it needs to kind of do its own thing now. I think it's ready to dissolve and form into some new factions, honestly.
I can't agree with you. I can't agree with you more. It's more likely they'll break up than they'll become babyface. Some of them might become babyfaces, but the faction will end before it completely becomes a babyface. It's so disjointed, and none of them. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about how everybody in that faction is focused on the nonsense of the faction now.
Yeah.
And they should be chasing belts individually, and they're not. Yeah. Like, who's going to chase the TNT title? Is it going to be Sammy, or is it going to be MJF? Like, they're going to have, like, you can't have that argument. Like, they both should be. Let's be honest.
Last week we made one quick prediction, each of us, and I said Sammy would win the championship belt before the end of 2021. And I agree with you guys that it's possible they will split, only because Jericho constantly loves to evolve. Because for him, evolving and change is good and improves him as a wrestler and his character. So I see it happening. I just don't see it happening soon. Like, everyone thinks it's going to happen early 2021. I see it happening towards the end of the year.
Oh, probably, yeah.
It's more like a summer thing. Maybe save it for the Jericho Cruise if they get a chance to do that next year.
It'll be a slow build to it. But they'll get there. I don't see them. I can see some of them turning face. I just don't see them as a unit all becoming good guys.
No, and especially since we've added MJF and Wardlow in there, like there's some kind of mutation or something happening. The pot is boiling. We put Twitch in it.
What if MJF and Santana Ortiz split off and form Inner Circle Wolfpack?
Wait.
I should have seen that one coming, to be fair, but oh boy.
I would die if they did that. And they came out and they had the same Inner Circle logo, but it was just red. I would be so happy. And then Sting just automatically started following them, and he changed his face paint to red just on instinct at that point. I feel deja vu when he just followed them.
How many more weeks before Sting appears, walks to the ring, and doesn't do anything? Like 12? 13, 14 more weeks? I'm just teasing. Okay, can I do my second prediction?
But you're not.
I am and I'm not, yeah. Okay, my second prediction.
Because none of us want to see him actually wrestle.
Well, actually, no, I don't, because I'm afraid he's going to hurt himself. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, I want to see Darby Allin wrestle. Like, I've been complaining about this for 8 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a nice start. Okay,
my second prediction, this is an actual prediction, not a wish, right? So actually my third, because I already predicted Sammy Guevara would win the championship belt and Santana Ortiz would win the tag team championship. But I do agree that the Dark Order is going to stay as a faction. I do think they're going to become baby faces. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to switch the name of their organization. They might add to it, like the New Light World Order, something like hilarious and stupid. But I see Hangman Page joining the faction. I just don't know what they're going to do about their name. Like, maybe it'll work. Maybe they could just keep on calling themselves the Dark Order. But they will change the branding, though. Like, they have to at least change the way they dress, or there's got to be some visual change.
Stay with it all.
No, this is my prediction, man. They're going to make a slight change, and it's just going to somehow make them heels, apart from, what just happened.
Heels?
That's all I got.
Do you mean
sorry, baby faces.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's going to be part of the storyline of Hangman joining them. I think that is what is. I mean, there are already baby faces in the hearts of most of the fans at this point, especially with everything that just happened with Jon Huber. A lot of goodwill from fans towards the entire faction. So I think now's the time to turn the baby face, make it part of the Adam Page story, and bring that into defeating the evil overlord Kenny Omega.
That's an interesting story. I think it's important. Honestly, at this point, I think it's incredibly important that the Dark Order turns babyface because you've got these other, like the Inner Circle is still a faction, they're heels. Team Taz is a growing faction, they're heels. The Nightmare Family is the least cohesive faction I've ever seen in my life. I don't understand why certain people are members of it. They don't do anything as a team.
They don't always support each other. It's very
they don't.
random. There's like a clear hierarchy even within the faction, which is troubling.
Well, it is, and none of it makes sense. So there is right now there is no clear babyface faction in AEW. They need one badly, and it should be the Dark Order. And I don't think they need to change a thing about them. They just need to keep doing what they're doing right now. As the Dark Order already made them essentially babyfaces.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to change it. Like if they change something, it'll just be making them heels again, or it'll screw everything up. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing, ride this tidal wave that they've got going right now, and just let them let guys like Uno and Grayson off the leash and just let them wrestle. Because what they showed us this week, oh my God. Obviously they've been kicking into high gear for a while, but this week,
whenever Stu's really allowed to do his thing, he impresses me so much.
That DDT.
That guy is so athletic, so strong.
When he came over the top rope and DDT'd whoever it was into the ring apron, then landed on the ground, I'm like, my God, you're beautiful.
Well, I don't know. They've impressed me big time on Dark. So for any listeners who don't watch Dark, go back and watch some of their matches. Like, incredible. Like, some of the best matches on Dark involve Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. There is one heel faction. We always forget about them. They're called the Nightmare Family, who also have a dark, twisted, horrific name. And they are, baby faces. God, I'm sleeping today. Whatever. They're supposed to be baby faces, even though they're called the Nightmare Family. So maybe the Dark Order could still be called the Dark Order, and in AEW it's like Bizarro World, where all the baby faces have dark names. Yeah.
Yeah.
DX didn't change it. Like DX switched back and forth between face and heel like 30 times, and they didn't change their shtick once.
Yeah, but they were always kind of like pricks, regardless if they were baby faces or heels.
Yeah, so Dark Order is still going to be spooky, but good spooky.
Exactly. Undertaker's spooky as hell.
There you go.
My third prediction, the third pay-per-view of 2021, there will be a huge crowd.
Yeah, they could have crowds back by then, full crowd. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they can have crowds before, but it's going to be limited, right? Like they said they had the biggest attendance of the last episode of Dynamite, but it was still pretty empty.
Yeah.
So that's for Full Gear? No.
Full Gear is the 4th. It's All Out, I believe.
All Out. What? Yeah, I keep getting confused between the All In and All Out and Double or Nothing. I keep forgetting All Out.
It's Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, Full Gear.
Okay.
Yeah. Mind you, we're going to have our real first pay-per-view event this coming Wednesday because the card is incredible, but anyhow.
Oh my goodness.
That's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I had one more crazy prediction. Actually, it's not really a crazy prediction. One more big prediction, though. So I think the third hour of television is going to come in the summertime. I think it's going to take a while for them to do it, but it can actually come in September because the thing is usually the fall season's when we get all the new big TV shows, and that's when all the networks rearrange their whole entire schedule, so maybe it could be September.
Well, yeah, no, it's definitely possible. It's getting time for that, I think. We'll see. It's going to depend on how everything goes over the next few months, of course, but yeah, it could easily happen.
Okay, so Ian, predictions. What's going on here?
Okay, tag team division. I am going definitely with Santana and Ortiz will win the belts this year, but I'm also saying that the Lucha Bros will pick it up this year too.
Oh.
I think they will win the tag team titles as well at one point, and I think it'll be like Santana and Ortiz will put on a great show this year, and it will lead to whoever has it first we will end up with a title match between Santana Ortiz and the Lucha Bros, and that's when it will change hands. But that will be the best pay-per-view tag team match of the year, and I believe it will happen this year. And we will see an incredible match. We'll see the belts change hands. It'll be huge. I think in the women's division, we're going to see, we're going to see a couple of big things. I think Britt will pick up the belt, but I also think that they're going to put the belt on Big Swole at some point this year, too. I think they're coming to a place where that's going to happen, and I think Anna Jay is going to find herself in the title picture as well. She might not win it. She's still pretty green, but I think they'll put her in the title picture.
Yeah, she needs a good, meaty feud. I knew that.
She does.
I know that they were trying to do that with Brandy for a little while, and then that all got all mixed up, and Jade Cargill's in the mix now, or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I want her in a nice, big, meaty feud.
Absolutely. She needs that. She doesn't need to win the belt, but she needs to feud over it for a while.
Yeah. Just really get those acting chops down and really solidify herself and her character. Like, she just needs more time to do that. Like, she has a good grasp of it, but needs to show it more to the public, I think.
I think we're going to see at some point there's going to be some big roster changes, I think, in AEW and in wrestling overall. There are several contracts in Thunder Rosa's contract, I believe, is up at some point this year. We'll most likely see her come to AEW. But there's several names in Impact that their contracts are coming up too, like, especially in the women's division, like Rosemary.
There's a free agent as well.
Rosemary, Taya Valkyrie.
Taya! Please, Taya!
So
oh my goodness.
I don't know if she'll go there or if she'll follow her husband to WWE. I don't know what will happen. Maybe she'll stay where she is, but I think either of those two women could be in. Like, Rosemary would be or Taya would be incredible additions to AEW's women's roster.
Yeah, I know she's friends with Luchasaurus.
She is, yeah.
Is there a certain amount of time that they have to wait when they become a free agent before?
Depends on the contract they sign.
Yeah, it depends on the company and the contract.
WWE has a standard 3 months usually is what they have. Renee, the reason why we haven't seen Renee Young, which I guess isn't her name anymore, but why she hasn't appeared in AEW is because she has an actual, like, her contract has a much longer non-complete clause in it for some reason. I don't know why, but it's much longer than 3 months, which is preventing her from doing anything else in wrestling until that's up. And of course, now that she's obviously pregnant, she's going to want to take some time to, have the baby and so on and so forth before anything gets going too. But yeah, WWE standard is 3 months.
Yeah, okay, because like even where I work, I can't go work for a different radio station for about 3 months as well. But my second question is, they're doing a cross-promotional thing with Impact right now. Do you think that they're actually going to hire a bunch of Impact stars?
Well, if Taya does, let's use Taya Valkyrie as an example. Not that we know anything with her, but if Taya doesn't want to re-sign with Impact, there's not much Impact can do about it. If she says, whether it's she goes to AEW or WWE or just decides she's done wrestling and wants to focus on her clothing brand or something, if she decides she is done with Impact Wrestling, she's done what she's going to do there, she wants to move on, she wants to go work with her husband in WWE so she can see more of him, there's not much that Impact can do about that. Like, if she just has decided this is the end, I'm done with Impact. If she says I'm going to AEW, and AEW is like, well, what are they going to do? Say no? And also, the other thing is, whatever this partnership with Impact, so far all it's amounted to is a couple of interviews. So, I mean, if I was Impact or AEW, I wouldn't really be too worried about it. We have no idea what this even is yet. So I wouldn't worry about it if I was them. The other thing to keep in mind is there was a couple of reports yesterday that there's a handful of WWE superstars from all three of their major brands, from NXT, from SmackDown, from Raw, who basically turned down their next contracts. Like, nobody's talking about who they were. I know Matt Riddle recently resigned, but it was apparently a struggle to get him. He wasn't sure he wanted to resign with WWE. He doesn't like what he's doing.
Right. He's on a Raw right now, right?
Yes, he's on Raw. He's in this weird tag team situation with Jeff Hardy that makes no sense, and just literally week after week ends with Bobby Lashley slapping the full Nelson on Jeff Hardy. Like, that's just what keeps happening. So I don't know why or what. Like, he's not entitled to. He's being used as comic relief, basically. He's not even really wrestling that much.
I'm not going to lie, there's a few NXT stars I would love to see come to AEW, but would you want to see more WWE talent make the switch, considering that right now the talent that AEW barely has enough time to wrestle because there's not enough shows?
It's I think to me that's a wrestler to wrestler basis. Like, I mean, there's some wrestlers like, yeah, do I want to see Randy Orton in AEW? Actually, I kind of do want to see Randy Orton in AEW, but that's beside the point. Like, there's guys like, do I want to see Roman Reigns in AEW? No, not particularly. Do I want to see Seth Rollins in AEW? No, I have no problem with either of them. I just don't want to see them there. But if you told me Adam Cole was going to make his way to AEW, yeah, I want to watch that. I want to watch him and Britt work together in AEW. I think he fits in much better there. Do I want to see Ricochet and Mustafa Ali in AEW? Hell, yes, I want to see them there.
Guys
I
are
want
so misused right now.
I want to see them so far away from WWE that they don't even remember what the company is. They don't care about them. They don't use them.
No.
Do I want to see Apollo Crews in AEW? Yeah, I'd love to see Apollo Crews. It depends on who the talent are, but that's not a complete thing. Like, I would love to see Nikki Cross over in AEW. I think they have a blast there, man. But all I know is there will be some talent changes on the market, and I think that I think there's going to be some big changes and some big shakeups for AEW, and I think they're going to cut a few people loose too. Like, they've got to come to a point eventually. Like, WWE, part of this whole contract issue, apparently they've shifted away from they've been, as we all know, WWE's been in talent hoarding mode for years now. They're shifting away from that now. They're starting to cut back. They're starting to, we saw that last year. We're going to see more big cuts like that coming too, as they remove wrestlers who they're just leaving in catering. Look at Aleister Black, for God's sake. Like, that guy is pure talent. And because Vince doesn't personally like him, like, he was Paul Heyman's project. Paul Heyman got demoted. Now the guy's been writing catering since like October at this point. Like, he doesn't do anything on any show ever. And not to mention what happened with his wife. Like, at this point, Thea Trinidad, formerly known as Zelina Vega, as soon as her non-compete's up, if she's not in AEW managing someone, I don't even know what they're doing. Like, she is one of the best managers I've seen in the last decade, easily. And she could do, like, she would be great in the corner of so many. There's tag teams, male competitors, female. I don't even care. You could put her with almost anybody. It would work. So there's so much talent there right now that's going to be changing between different companies next year. And it's not, there'll be AEW people going to Impact going to, like, it's going to be, there's so many contracts up in so many companies this year. There's going to be some big changes, and AEW can do nothing but benefit from it, I think.
You know, when you talk about WWE at this point, I'm in the dark, because, like, I talked about this a while back on the podcast, the fear of missing out. Like, a lot of people just continue to watch Raw and SmackDown even though they don't like the product, because they want to know what's happening so they can be in on the conversation. And especially if you're into wrestling, like, you want to know what's going on. I just had to make a decision that I just don't have time for it right now. And that's what I like about AEW, is the fact that there isn't much to focus on. And it is sort of getting a little out of hand, because we also talked about this a few weeks ago. There's Dark, there's Dynamite, and then there's like a gazillion YouTube channels, right? And there's storylines being developed in those YouTube channels. And so for me, it's like I have to decide how much of my time in my life do I have for wrestling per week. And I've narrowed it down to basically Dynamite with the occasional WWE PPV. So there's a lot of talent that I would like to see cross over to Dynamite, but like you said, it depends on the wrestler and how they wrestle in the ring. But I still don't want any more talent to come in from that company until they have a second televised program. Like, I don't know how long it's going to take. Like, my prediction was September. So until then, I want to see them really build the stars that they have, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And you're right. They do have a large roster of people. I think the big thing that they need to stop doing is we've talked, this is another thing we've obviously talked about before, but every week on Dark, there's like 4, 5, 6 debuting people. And I'm like, why do you don't need more people. You have so many talented people around that could fill that spot right now. You don't need to bring in somebody else. And again, they've obviously found some great people that way, but, ease back, develop the ones you've got, and, let's build into something with them. So I don't know. Like, I think they need to get a handle on who their roster is and what they want to do. I don't know what their internal plan is, but they need to start putting it into action in the long term.
Yeah, I actually heard an interview with Tony Khan earlier where he made some references to needing to cut down the roster, and that there were people he was pretty much on the verge of cutting until quarantine happened. And so that's why he's not releasing anybody because he's a nice person and wants everybody to be able to make money and feed their families. But yeah, he knows that there are major roster cuts that need to be made. He just wants to wait until the employment market is better for his employees, if they're going to be former employees.
I respect that. I see where he's coming from. And I mean, it was rough when AEW pulled the trigger on a lot of those people that they let go back in April. But also, a lot of the people they let go were guys like Miro, who were 1 in 9/10 foot out the door already anyway. So I mean, like, he was dissatisfied and he was looking for his exit already. So I mean, at the same time, there's people like Pineapple Pete who they didn't like. He just sort of wandered off.
Yeah, what happened to Pineapple Pete?
They never had him on contract, and so he just sort of kind of did his thing there. He felt it had run his course, and then he actually started, not that like within a after that, started showing up on Monday Night Raw in their whatever Raw Underground segments they were doing for a few weeks. And Shane McMahon, he was in a few of those, and then when they shut those down, then I don't know where he is now, but then that's where he went for. He was there for 2-3 weeks, and then It was really weird because one week he was on like Dynamite or Dark doing something, and the next week people were spotting him as part of Raw Underground, and he's like, "Yeah, they didn't have me under contract at AEW, so I got to just go wherever I want, whenever I feel like." So that's what he did. It was a week-to-week thing, so he just kind of moved on. And there'll be quite a few people like that too. Like they'll feel like they're not getting a place. There'll be like a Ben Carter situation where they couldn't sign him to contract for various reasons, and then WWE will pick him up. And I thought I saw something advertising him for NXT UK or something, I think. And he'll obviously do great work for them there. I'm sure he'll get swallowed out of the sky by Walter at some point. But it's one of those things where there's so much weird. There'll be natural shifting that happens like that just based on people's contracts and where they want to be right now. So. I think that, but I firmly believe we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked to see either Rosemary or Taya Valkyrie show up in the women's division and help just elevate it to the next level.
Any more predictions?
Yeah, I firmly believe that we're going to see a belt, either the TNT Championship or the World Championship. I think Lance Archer finally is going to get his due this year, and I think he's going to get the push he needs. I think he's going to make he's going to make the babyface switch, and I think he's going to get in the mix for the title, for a title this year at some point. I see Darby losing it eventually to, I'm hoping, my belief is Ricky Starks, and then I see that continue. I think Lance Archer, or whatever this weird feud is with Eddie Kingston's family, he'll sort of skip off of that and then lead into a feud with Team Taz that will be built to him taking the belt off of Ricky down the road. That's what I'm looking for anyway.
I got one more prediction. I think AEW, before the end of the year, maybe towards the end of the year, they're going to announce their first international show in 2022.
If it hadn't been for the pandemic, they would have had it by now in Canada. I guarantee you that.
You think?
Yeah, they already had they had one in the UK that had to be canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they'll be. I think you're absolutely right. I think it will happen. I think you're 100% correct. And yeah, I think it'll most likely happen. I would guess probably in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. It's about 30,000 people, so that makes sense.
Prime Wrestling Center.
I know, right? Like it's the spot. No, they'll show up in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or something. They'll set up some dates there, and then they'll have a hell of a show.
You know what I do not want to see? I really, really like Kenny Omega. He's a great wrestler. Some consider him the best in the world. I won't argue. But I do not want to see him have the belt for too long, because Jon Moxley had the belt for almost an entire year. And that kind of worked, especially because of the pandemic and, everything that happened in 2020. But, man, there's just, like, you're naming off all these wrestlers, and I'm like, that guy should be a champion. That guy should be a champion. That guy should be a champion. Like, and I don't want to see, 10 champions in 2020. Like, I'd like to see a guy hold on to the belt for a good while and have a good storyline. But yeah. I'm not really into the whole Kenny Omega storyline at all. And regardless if it's Paige that takes it from him or Jon Moxley comes back or I don't know, man, I just don't want to see Kenny Omega hold on to the belt. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of fans that are fans of the cleaner and his whole shtick and him being a heel. But regardless if he didn't have a championship or not, he's been in the spotlight for the entire 2020. I mean, when I made my list of the best matches of 2020, he's on that list. And yeah, credit to Kenny Omega. I gave him credit for being in these great matches, but he's also had more matches than a lot of wrestlers, especially in pay-per-views and in main events. So you mentioned Lance Archer. I would love to see Lance Archer have a championship title. I think one of the first conversations we ever had, Ian, was how much I liked Lance Archer, but I don't see it happening. I hope. I just don't see it.
I'm concerned it won't too, but I think he's got a real shot at this year. I think he's in a weird place right now, but I think this weird spot is what will help him achieve. I don't think he's going to win the World Championship this year. I think he's going to win the TNT Championship this year. That's more likely to me. But down the road, I think Kenny will hold it through Revolution, but I firmly believe the next pay-per-view after that will be the end of his title reign. And I think if they do it any longer than that, I agree with you. That would be a huge mistake. They need to shift that title. There are so much talent in this company, and there's so many people that deserve to carry that belt and have earned the right to carry that belt already just with their work. And I would love to see that hard work rewarded with some gold around some new wastes.
Last thing I'm going to say, swear to God, they just need to introduce a new mid-card title, because the TV title should be defended on television. But they should have a second, or in this case, a third title, which would be equivalent to Intercontinental Championship, which you can use on pay-per-view events. You know what I mean? They just need it. There's too much talent. And anyhow, 2020 was an amazing year for AEW. Dynamite was one of my favorite TV programs of the year, period. I think the fact that 2021 is going to start with a bang, that first episode of 2021 is, in my opinion, a pay-per-view episode.
Oh, it definitely is. No, this whole New Year's thing Smash thing that they've got, the 2-week event looks great. They're going to have some big matches, and it's going to be, I think, obviously, I mean, it's not just me thinking this, but it's laying the groundwork for a lot of what they've got planned for the coming months, if not the coming year. I will say that I see what you're saying about the third singles title. I think it's more likely they'll do a trios championship than another single title. I think that's also more likely they'll do I think they'll do a trios title and women's tag team titles before they added another singles title into the mix, even though they probably should. And you know what? Honestly, I know things got a little weird for them at the end of the year, but they also promised us an official announcement about a new show by the end of the year, and we did not get that. So hopefully we're going to hear something about it soon. They desperately need it. With the amount of talent and the amount of storylines and what they've got to work with now, they desperately, desperately need another program to get things rolling. So that's an easy prediction. 2021, new show. If not, I'm not sure what they're doing.
We riot.
Well, it's the only option at this point. I feel like we've given them enough chance, and it's time I will riot here quietly by myself in Saskatoon. It will not be effective, and I won't do much damage, but it'll be annoying for a lot of people. I will tie up traffic somewhere, I can promise you that. All right, I think that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Talk AEW, the AEW podcast for GoombaStomp.com, TiltMagazine.net. Big thank you goes to Mariko McDonald, as always.
Thank you to you, and all the best to everyone for 2021. Let's go out there and kick some real ass and take some names.
I'm going to kick some names and take some ass. Ricky D, big thank you to you as always too, my friend.
Quick reminder, everyone, go check out GoombaStomp.com. Ian published a list of the best pay-per-view events of 2020. I got my list of 20 best AEW matches. There's tons of great wrestling content. If you want to write about wrestling or appear on the podcast, shoot us an email at editor@goombastomp.com. And you can also check out our sister site, which is tiltmagazine.net. This podcast is just about everywhere online, YouTube to Podbean to Stitcher to iTunes to you name it. And I did notice, guys, that the numbers spiked recently in terms of listenership, which is fantastic. So thank you to all you people who listen. We don't really do that whole subscribe thing and YouTube channel and talk to people because, I don't know, it's weird, but it's nice to know people listen.
Thanks for caring, guys. I just made a rainbow with my arm, just so everyone knows how beautiful that was. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
I had to write this memo the other day, and I was looking for a quote, just something that would encapsulate somebody like Brodie Lee, and I came across this Samuel Johnson quote. I probably will butcher it, but I think you'll understand it. It says, "You can judge a man's character by how he treats somebody who can do him no good." Over the past week, we've heard all these stories of all these different people, these degrees of separation who were positively affected by Brodie Lee. There has never been a wrestler in every company, in every locker room, with every member of management to have that one-to-one connection, and that's why everyone is affected so deeply. In short, he was a beautiful man